Today we're going to be testing one of my favourite 5-star gems against one of my favourite 1-star gems to see which comes out on top and if there's that much difference. The results are surprising. So we're going to be testing something out today, and this is looking at legendary gems once again. So I'm using Bottled Hope at the moment, and this is a 5 out of 5 quality gem and at rank 7 as well. And I want to compare this to Entropic Well at rank 10. So Entropic Well is obviously going to increase skill damage by 18% and increases skill attack speed also, whereas Bottled Hope, this gem increases the movement and damage from a buff skill. So it increases the movement and damage on a target when you're using a buff skill. So the only buff skill in this setup that I'm using is actually the slow time. So if I show you here, when you click on any of your skills, it tells you what kind of skill it is. So you can see this one's control and damage. This one is buff, damage and damage. So this is the only buff skill I'm using in this build. So this is why I wanted to compare the two. I figured that maybe Entropic Well is actually a stronger option. So we're going to test them both out. So obviously there's a huge difference in resonance that this is going to make when I swap this out as well. But as I've said before, resonance isn't always everything. Sometimes you'll find that actually having more beneficial gems or the right gem setup is better for you, especially with giving damage. So we're going to do a 30-second test here. Now obviously if you were playing on iPad, if you were playing on computer, you can get much higher damage than I am with this build. I will give the build details in a separate video. You know, I like to keep my videos short, so this one is simply for testing. And I have no idea what the outcome is going to be for this because I've not actually compared them before. I wanted to compare them and give a completely true, honest reaction of what we get. So obviously with Bottled Hope, we're getting 10.7 million damage per second, 323 million in 30 seconds. Now this is the setup that I normally use in raids, and I've found that quite often I'm top 1 or 2 with this in raids. Now I did have a period where I wasn't in the top 2, and this has made a huge difference in the game for me. As I said, if you're playing this build on PC, if you're playing it on an iPad, you won't have the amount of misclicks that you get from mobile, so you can actually get a lot more damage from this. I constantly get people saying in the comments, you know, oh, I don't know why you're not getting as much damage. It's because I play on mobile. That's literally the only reason. So 10.77 or let's say 10.8 million damage is the damage we want to beat. Now one thing to consider is before I swap my gems, one thing to consider is I'm getting these bonuses, which there's not actually damage bonuses from this gem, so it shouldn't cause too much of a difference. So we're going to socket the Entropic Well instead. So as I said, totally different skill descriptions. And in this setup, you can see I'm already using Surging Sea as well. So having a look at all my gems, I've got Blood-Soaked Jade, Surging Sea, Roiling Consequences, Blood Flow, Void Spark. Obviously, we've just put in Entropic Well. We've got Wolfure, and we've got the Colossus engine as well. So that is the setup that I use. Normally, I have the Bottled Hope instead of Entropic Well. Sometimes I swap in Starfire Shard instead of Surging Sea as well. It depends what build I'm playing and if I need my full resonance or if I need just the right setup for that build. So let's go ahead and test this again now and see what we get from this setup with Entropic Well and see if we can actually beat this damage that we originally had from the first setup. So so far it looks like it's performing pretty well. As you can see, there was a misclick there with the cooldown on the slow time. Unfortunately, sometimes I click it and it doesn't always click, which is what I've mentioned before with playing on mobile. You can tap things on the screen, doesn't always click. Sometimes it's frustrating when you're playing things like the Ereban, which I've run solo, because you'll often find that, okay, let's just stop. There's not much difference in the two, as you can see. What I was in the middle of saying is with Ereban, sometimes you can find that when you're clicking the chest, they don't always click on mobile. So you sometimes have to go back, it takes longer. So with mobile, there is always that risk of missing clicks or not clicking at all. So I'm going to come out of here. I want to test this again because, as I said, we had that misclick there on slow time, and that can actually affect, or well, that does affect all the skills. I'm just waiting a few moments so that we can get the gems on cooldown here. And you can see as well, I've got all these other buffs from the Warband and also from the sets that I'm using. So I've got Skybreaker's Bolt here. Also got the Focus Stance active. Another way of actually increasing damage from this build is swapping the combat stance. So I sometimes, especially in raids, I start off with the restraint stance and then I swap to the focus stance after that to get that buff in the damage. So let's attempt this again. So we're going to do 30 seconds again, and hopefully we won't misclick this time and we'll just get the skills going. I need that slow time to actually work the first time we click it. There we go, that was a little bit better there. And we'll see what the result is. Like I said, I'm quite surprised that there's not much difference in the two, especially when it's a 5 out of 5 quality gem. I was expecting to see like maybe a lot less difference from this, but this is what I've said before about optimal gems and using the right gem synergies for your setup. So we're coming up to 30 seconds now. So there we go. So that's a little bit better. We've got 10.3 million damage per second. So out of the two, Bottled Hope is still the best for this setup, which I'm kind of surprised at, as I said, with only having one buff skill. But it does show you that actually resonance is not everything, because if you're using Entropic Well, you're not going to be doing that much difference in damage to actually using the Bottled Hope. Now, another thing with the Entropic Well is you can get primary attack damage and skill damage increase if you include the resonance gems in there. So if I was to slot 2 gems in, so I'd need Blessed Pebble rank 10 and I'd also need Exigent Echo rank 10. If I had both of those in there, that would also increase my skill damage by another 2%. And that would obviously make the build even stronger. Same with Surging Sea. If I had the gems to slot in here, which I might actually use Entropic Well for this. So I need Havoc Bearer rank 10 and I need Entropic Well rank 10, which I've got. If I put both of those inside that gem, I can actually increase my damage further once I get that skill damage unlocked. So that's probably what I'm going to look at doing next, is actually crafting Havoc Bearer to rank 10 and putting that inside of the Surging Sea to get that boost in damage as well. So that is it from me for this video. Let me know your thoughts. Did you think this 1-star gem was going to perform as well compared to Bottled Hope? Did you know that Bottled Hope was always going to come out on top? Let me know your thoughts, as I said, in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.
Official Diablo Partner.